shameless plug incoming. Today's episode is brought to you by markshirts.com. Find your new favorite t-shirt today. Pre-recorded from Vulpit Studios, it's the Cult of MCS1 podcast, featuring Caleb and now your host, MCS1.
Welcome everyone to another exciting edition of the Cult of MCS1 podcast. I am MCS1, and once again, I am joined by my dear compadre and amazing co-host, Caleb Hedden. Yo, what up, Caleb?
Dude, just living the dream.
Living the dream?
I mean, we're back up here via satellite, right?
I know, right? We kind of went offline for a bit, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, so to everyone
satellite
wondering...
wasn't happy.
Yeah, so to everyone wondering where we've been, we weren't recording not because we were lazy, although that's a factor.
I mean...
Not
pretty
the
large.
factor. Yeah, not the factor. But our recording software was not working.
Yeah.
And it was like 2 months that it was down. And I was checking it every day. And then finally it got up. And then right after it got up, about a week and a half later, Caleb and I are like, well, now we can record.
Yeah.
So
we did it. You're welcome.
Yeah, we saved the community center.
Oh my gosh, it's perfect.
One of my favorite one-liners. And when I first heard it was like the new Beavis and Butthead series.
Oh my gosh,
of all
that's
places.
awesome.
And I'm watching an LMFAO video for champagne showers.
Uh-huh.
And at the end, LMFAO are dancing, and all of a sudden, Butthead's like, "Congratulations, guys! We saved the community center." And I was like, "Oh, damn, that's a good one! I got to write that down."
Congratulations, guys!
Yeah. So
community center.
Yeah, when I would
awesome.
when I play video games and things like that, and we would like kill a boss like with my team or whatever, I'd be like, "Congratulations, guys! We did it! We saved the community center."
That is amazing.
So, all right. So today we got a super special episode. Pretty cool. This is something I've been wanting to talk about for a while. I think Caleb probably has too.
Indeed.
And I'm not saying like it didn't really ever fit into the show for us to talk about it, but we talked about this a little bit here and there, quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
We touched on this during I think it was My Childhood is Ruined episode.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
A little bit. And we also kind of touched on it during one of our very first episodes, People Who Can't Let Go of High School.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So this episode is called Your Nostalgia is Ruining Your Life.
It's a good play on the other thing.
I know, right? Like, yeah. Seriously.
So and take that, idiots.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about nostalgia, what it is these days, and just all that fun hippity crap, whatever.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk about how Caleb and I finally decided that we were going to do this show. And we're going to give all of you a little glimpse into our lives of our chat.
It's not going to be a pretty look, guys.
It's not going to be real pretty. Of our chat channel that we have, the Hillary Clinton's private server.
With hashtag BYU alumni.
Yeah, with our hashtag chat channel called BYU alumni.
We are terrible people. Just so that everyone knows.
People. It's funny because the only people in this channel are like our little recording robot.
Yep.
Caleb and I, and Shane Barker.
That bastard.
Shane freaking Barker. So, even though like on the show we do not discuss politics, in the server, which is named Hillary Clinton's private server.
I'm sorry, every time I hear it, it just makes me happy.
It's so ridiculous. We always discuss politics, and it's never anything heated, ever. It's mostly just cheap jokes and one-liners. Like usually. Always. It's not. I don't feel like anything's ever heated.
No.
And it's mostly it's just stupid jokes.
Mostly because we're just dumbasses.
Yeah. Or it's just really weird things like or sarcastic comments. Like I think it was like 2 weeks ago, Bernie Sanders and AOC were coming to the city that I live in.
Oh yeah.
I was like, I can't wait to go start my weekend seeing Bernie and AOC. And you're just like, it was like, I could tell it was pure sarcasm. You're like, I can't think of a better way to spend my Friday. or something like that.
It was definitely sarcasm.
Yeah. But so as
I forgot about that for a second.
as we were discussing politics. The impeachment trials came out because they're freaking everywhere,
Yeah,
and we talked about
literally
how
inescapable.
yeah, really inescapable, even on Hillary Clinton's private server.
I
And
mean,
uh,
it's true.
yeah, so we were discussing that, and we were talking about how the trials are on PBS of all things, which they were for Nixon's trials as well, not Bill
Right.
Clinton's, but Richard Nixon, the I am not a crook guy, the president of Earth in Futurama,
Listen,
that
listen.
guy.
He when he rules in Futurama, though, I feel like he does a great job.
My fellow Earthicans, yeah, him and Headless Agnew.
Yeah, dude.
I love Futurama. Anyway, so we were talking about the impeachment trial being on PBS,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what spawned this whole conversation. And we're gonna read this to you fairly verbatim. I went through and I edited a lot of the text in this as well, um, because it was like I didn't add anything in here like for Caleb to say, Mark, I can't believe how successful you are. I don't know why your parents are not proud of you. Or,
I mean, you
or
wanted to. Let's be serious.
I did. I actually mentioned this in the chat to Caleb beforehand. I didn't add anything quite like that, although it would be funny and depressing.
Yeah,
But
little column A, a little column B.
little column A, little column B. But I did add. I didn't not really add anything. I kind of subtracted a couple of things, and I reformatted this to be more word friendly because Caleb and I will say something like a quick one liner to be funny, then ask him a question, and he'll say something like responding to that one liner, and then something to that question. So it's more uniform this way, and you can
Right.
actually understand because there's kind of that delay when you're talking about like multiple topics at once in a chat.
Properly edited, we could say.
Properly edited, curated if you want to be a snob about it.
Listen, I always want to be a snob.
Okay, then this is properly curated, and we're going to be
Perfect.
snobs about this. And so we're going to we're going to read this conversation like pretty much word for word of what it was, and then this will get us right into the show of actually talking about it. So as we were
Right.
talking about this on PBS, um, it was like, well, not many people watch PBS. And then Caleb, I'll let you get started, and then
Yeah.
I'll pick it up.
So yeah, on the impeachment, I was like, well, I mean, I'm sure both of their viewers like me will be entertained.
I said, I mean, they are the public broadcast system, all two of them. And then quotes, Mom, why isn't Barney on? Who's this orange man?
And then I go, I remember watching Arthur when I was like 10 and thinking, why don't they have better shows on this channel?
Fucking Arthur. That show is still going.
Honestly, I hate that damn aardvark.
Like, what the fucking fuck?
Well, I mean, when you get public funding, why the hell not, right?
I guess that's true. But Arthur?
Hey man, I agree. That show is terrible.
You know, the people who are nostalgic love shit like Arthur. But it's not that it was a good show, it's that there was nothing else fucking on.
Exactly. Yeah, in the days before Netflix, we had to wait for the afternoon cartoons.
This is in quotes, me impersonating someone, a nostalgic beehole, as I'd like to put it.
Boomer?
Yeah,
What?
maybe boomer. Well, I say this is
What's-
more of a nostalgic '90s Gen Wire
We're just
or
gonna call them
millennial.
boomers. We're
Or
just gonna call them boomers.
gosh, like I remember coming home and watching Arthur every day from a hard day of being bullied at school. I was too poor for video games and cable, so Arthur was all I had. Those were good times.
It's- what?
And it's shit like that.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. But I mean, I just went outside and played sports and shit. I mean, I literally watched like 10 episodes of that show, and god damn, was it shit.
I had no upper body strength or lower body strength.
If it's shit to a 10-year-old, though, you know that's shit.
Arthur was the shitty animal version of Doug. Middle class suburbia BS.
Yeah, dude, that's such a great way to put it. Except, I will say this, at least on Doug, you had different colored people. Sure, they were green and blue, but it's diversity, damn it. It was like Hey Arnold, only not relatable. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was just that early, the '90s, early 2000s was a messed up time for everyone, really.
No, they were good times. I really miss them. They were much simpler. Like, we didn't have all these shows in the 90s to choose from. It was as simple as turning on PBS after school and tuning into Arthur.
And then going to the slightly better version, Doug, right after that. Fucking Arthur, what a bastard. The only good thing that came out of the early '90s was Blizzard games and Michael Jordan.
I don't know, some of the music was good,
Oh yeah, I guess that's true. The rap game was pretty good. I did forget about that.
but everyone acts like those shows were great. Like, they sucked.
Yeah, dude, they were terrible. I mean, even my favorite show from the time, Spider-Man, the '90s Spider-Man show, it really wasn't that good.
I tried to watch the old Spider-Man. It was hard.
Yeah, man, I can't do it. It's just bad. It's awful.
Old X-Men and Batman are still epic as fuck, though.
Well, yeah, that's fair. About Batman and X Men, those are still honestly pretty legit. Well, except for season 6 of X Men when they kind of shipped production over to the Philippines.
I remember waking up every Saturday morning, still sore from getting beat by my dad when he got drunk the night before. I had to be quiet as to not to wake him. It was just me and Spider-Man every Saturday morning until dad woke up from his hangover and beat the living shit out of me. Those were good times, simpler times. Like, nostalgic people always had shit lives back then too, but they never fucking realize it.
Yeah, dude. Honestly, that's why nostalgia is shit.
We barely had any money to buy food, but we had public access television and a Game Boy Color that ate the batteries. My
I'm sorry.
my dad used to yell at me for wasting electricity for charging the batteries, but I didn't care. The beatings were worth it. It was just me and Battletoads. I really miss the 90s.
Yeah, dude. But we have to acknowledge this though. Game Boy Color is pretty legit.
This is true. I remember being dropped off every day for preschool every day. My mom gave me the latch key to the house, and I'd sit down in the daycare and watch Barney while the babysitter ignored all of us and we all sniffed glue. It was a simpler time.
Sometimes we would eat paste too.
Shit tasted good. So, one, if Caleb and I ever do a cold reading of a play, that's exactly what it's going to sound like, everyone, just to let you know.
So, I mean, we're just giving the fans what they want. Me and
Exactly.
you doing a cold reading of a
Mhm.
play.
Of a play, which was based off of a conversation that we literally had like a couple days ago.
It's so true, man. It's so true. Oh man, it's so true.
So, and you kind of gathered like that little like whiny voice of that person, getting beat by their dad and like all this other stuff for nostalgia. That is honestly kind of how I view nostalgic people. Like,
Yeah.
not even like it's like, oh, I don't view like everyone like that. Or there's exceptions. No, I really view all nostalgic people like that. Even my friends. I'm just gonna call it and say it like it is right there. And when people start talking about nostalgia, that's what I envision.
Yep.
Those types of people that like they had a shitty life, but they thought like this one thing that was there from their childhood or whatever somehow was way better than what it was. And it was just like rose colored glasses looking when
Big
they were
time.
looking at the past. Like they're definitely
Mhm.
not mindful of the bad shit really happening to them, but they're especially not mindful of the shit that was happening to other people
Oh, agreed.
as
100%.
well. And that just, I don't know. It kind of blows my mind how people just can't really see that type of
Yeah,
thing.
that's the thing that's always funny to me is that it's like and I mean, I guess in some cases it's probably just people blocking out the bad stuff, but it's like, yeah, but you got to acknowledge that, like
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, let's talk 90s for a little bit because that's like, I think our generation, Caleb, like Gen Y,
yeah,
the millennials,
that was kind of the quote unquote like best times ever or whatever.
best times ever. But like, here's the thing: there was no during during the 90s. If there was, it was very rare.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, and the internet was really slow. There
Oh,
wasn't
dude,
really,
painfully.
yeah, painful. Remember dial-up? It's like
Oh my gosh, dude.
and all this other stuff. Oh,
I
it's
remember when
yeah.
we first got internet and we got like we got a Juno email address,
Oh
and
man,
I
still
was
don't
like,
have.
oh, this is and like honestly at the time I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. You can send a message, you know. And then like I look at that today and I'm like, wow, that was garbage. That was like
Yeah,
literal like Juno isn't even as popular as Hotmail at this point.
yeah. I remember. I was kind of an AOLer at first.
Sure, yeah. Oh,
Big,
yeah,
Big
that was the other
America
one, yeah.
Online, with the disc they send you, and it's like, leave
Mhm.
us alone, type of thing. So I was a big AOLer, and I still have. This is really like kind of like a guilty pleasure. I don't want to claim this to nostalgia, but whatever. I will just say it for fun. My ringtone for like when I get a text is the AOL I am ding.
Nice.
But like, I haven't found a text tone that's better. Is the thing, and I've been
Yeah,
looking
well,
around for a while, but I don't know, the AOL I am ding, it's kind of my fave.
dude, it's pretty great. Let's
It
be
is,
serious.
and I think it was just because it was, like, a good tone for texting, and it doesn't hurt your ears, and it's,
Yep.
like, not annoying, and so I think that's kinda why I still have it, but if I had to chunk it up to nostalgia and put myself in the group with this wiener kid that's fictional that I'm making fun of for this cut sake, sure, whatever, I won't be a hypocrite.
I guess that's your thing.
Dad
Well, I
used
mean,
to
it's
yell at me, but I had the AOL I am tone.
well, and it's like, I mean, I still play like Diablo, right? So I mean, that was
Yeah, and I've noticed like okay, video games. Let's talk that.
oh yeah,
Some of
definitely.
them are still really good
Sure, sure.
because they really stood the test of time. But
Right.
some of them still have really just sucked
Dude,
as
yeah,
well.
okay. Okay, really quick. I know this is a really unpopular opinion, but the original GTA was so lame.
Really, I never did that. I was gonna say, and this is gonna be a huge hot take, but I don't care. Pokemon Red and Blue original,
Mhm.
really bad.
Dude, they're
Like
annoying,
really, yeah,
honestly.
it's hard. I tried playing
Yeah.
one on 3DS because you can get like that the remastered version, which is
Yeah,
just like
whatever it is, yeah.
yeah,
Where
it's just
Pikachu isn't like an overweight lard.
sounds like all of them.
Well, yeah.
And I tried playing it on the 3DS, and it's just the direct port, and it's still pretty. It's still kind of crappy, especially until you get the bike. But then like you go into Pokemon Silver, and it's still kind of really hard. But then like the Pokemon Soul Silver and Heart Gold came out, which is
Yeah,
like the
those are dope.
remastered version, and they're
Those are
still
dope.
dope. Like
Yeah,
you can
those
get
are
like the
way good.
running, yeah, the running shoes. It only takes like a second to get the bike.
Yep.
Like those are good and
Way better.
way better by a lot. And it doesn't take someone like to really notice unless they have like insane nostalgia goggles on.
Right.
And which is kind of what I mentioned earlier. Like people aren't mindful of the bad shit happening, to themselves or others because they're just looking at like these rose colored goggles in the past. And then since we're kind of talking about video games, let's address something that I kind of said in the conversation, particularly about Arthur the fucking aardvark, which is
Ugh.
still going. I can't believe this is still going.
I
Like,
don't understand that, dude. I
yeah.
really don't understand that.
Um, but people were watching shit because there was nothing else on. And I was doing a lot of that with some of these shows. Like I was watching, I think we brought this up in the conversation. The old school Spider-Man. Aside from that intro music, it is not that good of a show.
No, dude, it's terrible. It's
And
so
he's
like Peter Parker is so whiny
oh, he is, and
and just
like,
awful.
and here's the thing, he's kind of a buff bro in that too. Like
Yeah, right?
like
He
I look
looks
at
like he played football.
yeah, I look at him, I'm like, wow, you definitely have a lot of upper body strength for being a total nerd, Peter. Like
Yeah,
when he is Peter Parker rather than Spider-Man, I feel like he has a much bigger build,
totally.
which is ridiculous to think about.
But he does though, like
But
because like
but he
Spider-Man's
does.
like all sleek and he's like agile and all that, and then like Peter Parker is like this broad-shouldered, like big bro who's like,
Yeah,
"Oh, I also do science."
yeah,
Brr, 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 brr.
it's like a side by side comparison to him and Flash Thompson in that
Yeah,
series. It's like
yeah.
he just dwarfs Flash, and Flash still picks on him. He's like, "Whatever, nerd."
It's like,
And
"Oh
Flash has
yeah,
got
what up, Peter Parker? I'm so much better than you, even though I'm smaller and less athletic."
yeah, and you think Flash would, had the advantage on or look bigger because he's wearing a stupid Letterman's jacket in this series. But Peter totally looks bigger than Flash,
Yeah, which is hilarious.
which is hilarious.
But it's
To
just bad. It's just bad animation. That's what it is. It's
totally,
bad
totally,
animation.
yeah. And then like, okay, back to these '90s like glory days, as we were kind of discussing. There was like a lot of fads in the '90s that just like didn't go anywhere and they weren't cool as
Yeah, like
well.
remember
Pogs?
Pogs?
Yeah, I was literally about to say Pogs.
Yep.
I don't even have that in the show notes, and we're on the same page.
Look at that.
I used to be really big into Pogs, but now it's like obviously I'm not because they were just a fad that went through, and I was like, oh yeah, mom, dad, buy me Pogs. They're like, no.
Yeah,
And
right? Remember the
um,
slammers? You had to buy the stupid slammers to play Pogs.
I
And
still
they're like,
have.
dude, they're literally just little cardboard cutouts of pictures that aren't even that cool.
So here's something extremely descriptive on what you just said. Actually, you pretty much described it. I had a Pog maker, which was like the cardboard cutout, and then like you could put a picture on it or
What?
whatever. Yeah, yeah, and make your own Pogs. So I made like quite a few of my own Pogs out of really crappy like comic book cards and things like that. I did have some like really cool slammers that I still have. Like I
Okay,
had a really cool yin yang slammer that my dad got me from somewhere, and
that's
like it
awesome.
and it is legit type of thing. So, but the thing is, it's like out of all the pogs I had, like I had a lot of pogs. I think I had about maybe 1,000, somewhere between 750 and 1,000.
Jeez.
Yeah, but out of all of those, even with the slammers and everything, I have maybe a tube about as tall as a Coke can. So
Dang.
yeah, so I mean, that stuff really wasn't worth keeping. But I'm not
No, dude.
nostalgic being like, man, I really want to go buy some Pogs or things like that. Um, and a lot of I've noticed like really good nostalgic items have a lot of value, not because either they're good, but because it's gotten a nostalgia attached to it
Agreed.
as
100%.
well, which is
Mm-hmm.
rather ridiculous. But then there's the opposite end of the spectrum. There's cool things that are kind of nostalgic, but they're also still yet cool, but they don't cost a ton of money. My
Yeah.
favorite example of this is the 1995 Fleer Ultra X-Men card collection.
Oh, dude, those were dope.
Dude, I still have mine.
Those were dope. Okay,
Yeah,
I have to admit, those were pretty cool.
I still have mine. I don't have the full set. I'm probably never going to complete the full set
Yeah, because it's not
because
1995 anymore.
well, because it's not 1995 anymore. Plus, it's like I'm only missing some cards, and it's cheaper for me to go buy like the full set. I think it's like only maybe anywhere from $20 to $30 on eBay. I'm not kidding. And the cards back then were like $5, and that was like 1990s dollars. So today,
Mhm.
that $5 could be worth like what $50,000 or whatever. I don't know. Um, something ridiculous. But yeah, and I don't really want to finish the collection because it's like, well, I'm not a kid anymore, but I still enjoy the
Yeah,
cards because the artwork on them is amazing.
yeah.
And it's
And
like,
that's the thing is, like, I feel like keeping something because it's like, "Oh, yeah, this legitimately looks cool," like, still playing Diablo, for instance,
yeah,
versus like, "Oh, man, you know what I really want today? Really, really, really just need some Pogs," because it
dude, bro,
reminds me of my awesome childhood that really sucked.
yeah, just me and the Pogs, man.
Yeah, dude. Although I will say this, my favorite thing about Pog, and this was like I even thought this was funny like way back then, is that some of the most popular slammers were those things, had OJ Simpson on them.
Really? Oh
Yeah,
snap!
dude. My buddy had one. So it was one that kind of the cartoon suns have the like little rays coming off of the big circle.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
He had one like that, and it said OJ Simpson, hotter than the sun, or whatever like that, something like that, because that's like how they would describe him when he was playing football, I guess.
Oh
And then it had
man,
like bars over his face.
it's really interesting. Like, okay, to look at the '90s now without like one the nostalgia goggles and looking back on the past for certain celebrities.
Yeah,
And this is a conversation we had the other day to each other in our Discord chat, Caleb. And I think you know exactly where I'm going with this, which is really messed up, but it's going to be true, and it's going to be really interesting for those listening. I I did not know this. I'm gonna like kind of lead on about who this is a little bit, but not like get exactly into it. But
Mhm.
I did not know that there was a certain like '90s baseball player that was like that was that was just a very terrible person. This I did not know. And
Super roided out constantly.
super roided out constantly. Really, just an all out terrible human being.
Yep.
To put this lightly, and that's lightly.
Yeah,
And,
dude.
and and I did not know this, and then I started. I was in a Reddit thread about the Simpsons because I freaking love the Simpsons, like the early. I love the early Simpsons, not because I'm nostalgic, but because that's when they had like the best set of writers, things like
Absolutely.
that. And I still like new Simpsons. It's not quite the same. I feel like once they went into widescreen, it kind of fell off, but it's whatever.
Yeah, I agree. I
Just
agree.
not the same. But um, the this person was a prominent figure in the '90s, and if you had his baseball card, people would want to trade for it
Yep.
constantly.
Big time.
And no, it's not Ken Griffey Jr. Everyone,
No,
it's
because he wasn't ever roided out. That's why he
no,
was
he was
always
never wrote
injured.
it out. It was Jose Canseco, and I
Oh,
did
man.
not know this guy was a huge asshole. Not like a little asshole, but just huge. And
Yeah,
so I
dude.
went through this Reddit thread I found, and I'll link this in the show notes because it is a rabbit hole of what the fucking fuck. Um, it's messed up. And he had a Reddit thread of Ask Me Anything, which Reddit on the social media network, they normally have like these Ask Me Anythings where you can ask celebrities or people who do whatever certain things. And Jose Canseco held one of those. And he says, "Hi, I'm Jose Canseco, famous steroid user and famous MLB player. Ask me anything." And then it talks about like his producer and blah, blah, blah. And then like the first comment on here, and here was the other thing, as I was reading through some of these comments, and as I read anything on Reddit, I always think about two things. One, is this real or is this someone trolling? Or two, is this just like, and I guess this kind of goes with one, is this an act type of thing? Because some people
Right.
on the internet, they have these crazy personas or whatever, when they're kind of like not who they really are. Kind of like how Caleb and I are on the show. Uh,
Correct.
Sort of. Never mind. This is actually how we are in real life. And actually, we're funnier in real life.
That's
But
fair.
so I was reading through some of these comments, and the thing is, they would apply to them as well, like most of these, which was crazy because people were saying like the meanest shit to him. And okay, the top comment on this or whatever, it was, "Hi Jose, I briefly met you at the LARP Awards. I asked you to sign my sword. You said, 'Fuck off, nerd.'" Like
That's
one,
amazing.
who does that? Like, I mean, I so my friends and I, we all call each other nerd joke, but like I would never like say to them, even as a joke, being like, "Fuck off, nerd," or whatever. And then like this is someone coming up to Jose Canseco as a fan. It's like
Yeah.
they legitly like admire him. And they're like, "Hey man," and he probably didn't have anything else or whatever. I mean, it's not like he was probably carrying around a baseball bat at the LARP convention or a baseball. I mean, by the way, people, LARP is live action role play. These are like D&D nerds in real life when they use
Yeah.
props, a bunch of other things. Maybe we'll cover LARPing one day, but I
If
just
if
gave you
you've
the good old
uh
gist.
if you've seen the movie Role Models, it's what the kid Augie does.
I've never seen role models, but
You need to see Role Models.
okay, I'll take your word for this. But fuck off, nerd. Like I can't get over that. Like
He
it's not
just
just
said that to some kid.
and it's a kid. It's not even. It's not even. It's not even like. It's a fan, and it's not like an adult or whatever. It's probably like a grown. It's not like a grown man. It's probably a kid. Like
Yeah.
maybe like 17. I would guess. I would guess 17 tops. And it's like I asked you my sign my sword, and you said "fuck off, nerd." Like who who does this? Well, Jose Canseco does this, and
Jose
it's
Canseco, like the '90s, is just complete shit.
yeah, and there, oh man, there's just all this crazy shit that Jose Canseco did. Like I think it was like a celebrity boxing thing
Yep, I
as
remember that.
well. I know I never saw this or whatever. And then this other question on here: did Shaq ever actually call you a frosted flake? And then Jose, what the hell? And then Jose Canseco, I don't know, but he won't fight me in the ring in a ring. And then like it's just weird shit like that. But like this guy in the '90s was viewed as just this great person,
Yeah,
and
he was a specimen. That's what
he
they
was a
they they called him
specimen.
that a few times. Yeah.
And a cool thing about the internet now, it's like you can't hide. It's like people find this shit out.
Yep.
And then like the internet is fucking vicious, especially Reddit. Reddit's vicious as hell.
Oh yeah, dude.
Oh man,
Oh yeah.
way vicious. Um,
Which I love,
which
but
I love it too. It's great. It kind of brings up in a way, and it also really has people think on their feet, which I really enjoy. And so back to this Jose Canseco thread or whatever. And speaking of savageness, someone said, "How meaningful was it when Jim Carrey screamed, 'I'm Jose Canseco' and 'Liar, Liar'? He could have screamed many other names when he thought of playing baseball with his kid."
yeah.
And then Jose Canseco, he's a big fan of mine. Plus, we had a threesome together.
Oh
And then
my gosh.
and it's like, what the hell? And you think
What?
and the thing is, you can't tell if the guy's joking or whatever. Like I said, I can never really tell the text. And then someone's comment on here, who's the other guy? Or who was the other guy? Like,
That did the roids with him?
no, that would be like Jim Carrey and Jose Canseco.
Oh yeah, who
Like
would be
like
the other
implying it
guy?
was three dudes for the threesome.
Steve Carell?
I doubt that.
That's
Um,
fair.
so then I gotta mention this, and then I'm gonna get off this Jose Canseco thread. This was probably like the craziest thing that I read on this thread, and this was just like this just blew me away. And then people were kind of verifying this as well, which just like really solidified it for me. Um, that like this is how Jose Canseco was, just being an asshole. And this person said, actually just create a Reddit account just to post in this. Been reading forever, never felt like I need to post until now. And the thing about Reddit is like there are people called lurkers who just look at shit and
Yeah.
they never say anything. When I first started on Reddit, I was like that. Um, and then I realized like over time, like if you say like the right things, like it's okay. Like people aren't going to be jerks to you,
Yeah.
and people are always afraid of getting downvoted, losing karma, and things like that. And so they just lurk, which is totally fine. And that's just how some people are. And so it's kind of like not risky, but like it could be socially or mentally damaging to you if like you say something and people just downvote you to hell.
Yeah, for real, dude, for real.
Yeah. I've been downvoted on a couple things. Whatever. Anyway, this person just created his Reddit account, and he said when he was 12 years old, he lived in San Roman, California, or Ramen, California, in a house directly above your condo in Canyon Lake Country Club. I live with my dad, and we saw you on a regular basis. You regularly came home, probably drunk, at 1 a.m. in the morning, honking your horn and revving your engine. The entire neighborhood know that your self-entitled pompous ass was home. What a dick! Like,
Oh my
holy
gosh.
shit! I was out walking my dog one day, and it barked at you, probably because she knew you were human scum, and you threatened to shoot, quote, the goddamn dog, if it doesn't shut up. You said that to a 12-year-old, and this reminds me of the whole "fuck off, nerd" thing. Like, this is how he treats people, like children,
Yeah,
on
dude.
here. And then,
Fuck off, nerd, you know?
yeah, and then another common thing on this was people would be like, "Hey, can I get an autograph?" And $50. And then someone like broke down like how much money Jose Canseco was making, like per like millions per year, and then like how much $60 was to a young kid wanting this guy's autograph. and things like that. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, moving on with this. Suffice to say, your complaints were heard by someone, and the police came and threatened to take the dog away from me. A 12-year-old boy whose parents had just gone through a terrible divorce, whose dog was literally his only friend in the world. My dad had. It's really sad.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
and I totally get it. Like that is really sad. My dad had no choice but to find a new home for my best friend and gave her away to a good family without even warning me. He knew I would freak out and did. I never saw her again. I still to this day I'll never forgive my father for doing that or you for causing it. I hope that one day you realize what a horrible human being you have been and how poorly you have treated those around you and live with the guilt until you die alone, lonely and miserable. Seriously.
Oh my gosh. That's hilarious.
Yeah, and but hey, remember Jose Canseco 90. Who he was really good at baseball, man. His cards, they just sold for a lot.
Yeah, they did.
Things like that. It's just really, really messed up. The glory days quote of baseball. And how come everything like the glory days are never present? I think glory days are bullshit.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, and we kind of cover this with the people who can't let go of high school, like a long time ago, like pretty much since we've been running this show. Like those are the people that like really hold to nostalgia
Yeah.
and really can't let go. One thing that I had growing up, like the glory days that I could never stop hearing about, was the Nebraska Cornhuskers college football team.
Mhm.
And because I'm from Iowa, Nebraska area, like I live right on the border of Iowa and Nebraska. And so growing up, it was always about how the Nebraska Cornhuskers were gonna do great and all this other
Nebraska.
shit. And yeah, and then they started sucking. They're like, oh, we'll make for a comeback, and the comeback never came. But they're always like, man, we sure did good in the '90s, and things like that. And it's like, well, yeah, you're just living off the glory days. Like, what have you done now? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
and so I get to hear like the glory days of the Nebraska Cornhuskers. It's like, well, the reality of it is right now they're losing, and and I'm just not a fan of them. The only time there's only like about 2 games of football I try to watch per year, but I never get around to it because
Mhm.
I don't care that much, or I forget about it until like after it's already been on.
Right.
It's
Right.
Nebraska when they play BYU. And I just want both teams to lose. Like I want it to go to a tie, and then both teams, and that's what I want to happen, but it never does. Or when BYU plays the University of Utah for the Holy War, but the Holy War has become so downplayed now because University of Utah stomps BYU so much. It's like
Dude, every year, man.
yeah, like no one even cares. So I always forget about it coming on because it used to be like, ramped up like it was this big deal. Now it's like on a Tuesday night when no one notices.
Yeah, dude, and then Utah just kicks the shit out of them and moves on with their life.
Pretty much. So yeah, it's not a fan of the glory days nostalgia type
Agreed.
of thing. The other thing that's been kind of grinding my gears about nostalgia, probably the best way to put it, is the constant reboots of everything that have
Yeah.
been coming out. Like at first, I'll admit this was kind of cool at first, but we've kind of gotten into the habit of rebooting everything for the sake of nostalgia, rather than coming up with new ideas. And
Which
and yeah,
is
go ahead.
honestly really annoying too, because it's like when someone does come out with something that's relatively new that's actually pretty cool, nobody freaking goes to see it because they're like,
No,
well, this doesn't have anything to do with my childhood, so
yeah, and
pass.
and the bar for nostalgia reboots is low,
Oh, super low.
super low. Like you can step right over it. Like it is so low. It's like from the windows to the wall. Like, it is that low. I mean, just this past about 2 weeks, Charlie's Angels um, reboot happened,
Yeah,
and it just
what
bombed at the
happened
box
there?
office. Yeah, it just bombed at the box office. Terminator: Dark Fate, like continuing that franchise. Don't get me wrong,
Why do they
I
keep going with those?
yeah, and don't get me wrong, I love the Terminator. but I will be the first to admit it's got a lot wrong with it and some really bad stuff. And it would be good if they quit, but at the same time, it's not gonna happen. So
Nope.
Dark Fate literally started back up, and it tried to I don't know about wipe out or decanonize or what the term is, but tried to make anything after Terminator 2 just obsolete.
Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah.
which Terminator Genesis also tried to do that as well, and
And both failed.
both failed like big time. I mean, Genesis really tried to add like a unique taste or take on the Terminator series with the internet and a bunch of other things, but it didn't really take, didn't do well. But things
Yeah.
like that, like it just these reboots. I will admit I did enjoy the Ninja Turtles reboot, the most recent one.
Sure.
I will admit I enjoyed that. And I don't want to say it was nostalgia, but I enjoyed it because they were just really corny.
Dude, yeah.
But
And see,
but they
that's the
were
thing.
but they're Ninja Turtles. It's supposed to be corny.
I mean, it's a show. It's literally it's a movie about turtles mutate and now have ninja abilities. And
Agreed,
so
agreed.
I'm with you on that one for sure because
Yeah.
it's not like a thing where I'd be like, oh yeah, let's put this into a film festival, see if it'll win an award. It won't.
Oh, totally won't.
But it's one of those like turn the movie on, turn off your brain, have a good
Yeah.
time.
Oh, totally. And then Spider-Man. Spider-Man is on there. Their third Spider-Man. There was even talk of being a fourth reboot
Yeah,
because of the Disney Sony negotiations
yeah.
as well. And it's like, holy cow. And then Batman. Speaking of
How
crazy
many
reboots,
Batmans have there been? Like, can we just stop?
I mean, there's so many Batmans. I mean, we're gonna get the dork that was in Twilight,
Ugh.
um, playing playing Batman soon, which he could do a good job. Um, I'm really hoping that they cast whoever played Jacob, his werewolf counterpart, as the villain in the new Batman movie. I would love that.
That would be dope.
And then
I'd be okay with that.
Catwoman would be actress name.
What's her name? The one who was she was just in the Charlie's Angel. Stewart or whatever.
Oh
What's her
yeah,
first name?
I can't
Uh,
remember.
it's either
I think
Kirsten or Kristen. I never remember.
Kristen Stewart.
There we
Kristen
go.
Stewart. Yeah, I never saw any of those movies, and but yeah, if she could play Catwoman, it'd be perfect. I would be happy.
That would be great.
It would be
Be
great.
amazing.
It would be just a dumpster fire, but I would actually.
I would pay to see that
Oh,
movie.
I would pay to see that dumpster fire. Hands down. It's like I'd be happy with that. I'd be like, the smell of the burning garbage. Like that's what I would want to see. But like we're getting like all these crazy reboots after reboot, just banking on nostalgia. And those are just like a couple of examples. Like it's not hard to check out a lot of other things that have been in recent cinema that are just reboots that keep happening. Even Netflix continuing some series. The Dark Crystal is
Yeah.
one. The Dark Crystal reboot, or it's not even a reboot, just like a prequel before the movie. Probably one of the coolest series I've seen all year. Um, very good, but nevertheless, a lot of nostalgia, and it's turned into um, it's nostalgia is like a marketable tool now.
Dude, it really is. It really
It's
is.
yeah, it's not just like a small factor or something. It's like, does this have nostalgia factor with whatever people distribute out, which
Right.
is nuts.
Right. I agree.
And then like Star Wars, for example. I love Star Wars. Don't get me wrong. I love Star Wars. I even like the new movies that everyone hates. Um, Kylo Ren, Darth Millennial. Love the guy. But I know a lot of people hate it, and Caleb and I covered this in the Star Wars episode that we did. Not really Star Wars episode, the My Childhood is episode,
Yeah.
and
Uh-huh.
we talked. And I think the main point we said out of that was, if your childhood was really based all only around this, then you had a very fragile childhood as it
Yep.
was. And that kind of happens with a lot of this nostalgia type of things. People will see their stuff that they enjoy, that they grew up with, rebooted, and if it doesn't meet their nostalgic expectations, they get upset. and
Yep.
they don't know how to cope, but yet they're still going to keep going and seeing these movies. Like
Yeah,
it's
which
not
is
going to.
just that's just retarded.
Oh yeah, and they're going to keep going. Like it's not going to stop them. But they're going to have a pissed off look on their face, type of
Yeah.
thing. But
Yeah, big yeah. Mhm.
because we've been getting so much of these nostalgic movies, basically the feedback loop of receiving these are just like the dopamine hits of nostalgia from these movies has pretty much been broken, and
Yep.
people aren't as excited anymore to see them. I mean, yeah, they kind of are, but they're whatever
Right.
type of thing. It just
Right.
doesn't pack the same punch anymore.
Right.
And yeah, it's that's pretty much how it is. And people let this nostalgia rule their life. Like it determines what movies they're going to see, the decisions to make, and how certain things that they grew up with that they haven't like tried to look back upon or revisit are way better than anything else they'll experience. And it reminds me so much of those people that peaked in high school.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's like,
big time.
yeah, it's
Big
like, did
time.
they really peak? Well, obviously not.
Yeah, well, it's like
Or
because
they could, well, maybe some of them, but
well,
or is it that mindset that they
yeah.
think they had?
Yeah, but it's just I mean, the biggest thing too that's always really interesting to me is like, um, whenever people will talk about like, oh man, remember back in the day when, and then they bring something up, it's always like they only talk about the cool parts about it. Like, it's one of the reasons I didn't go to mine and Shane's high school reunion is because I really didn't want to talk to all these people that I do not like.
Yeah, same reason
You
I've been
know,
skipping out on all my high school reunions. I'm actually waiting until I invent the newest social media network that takes down Facebook, and I have
nice.
something to brag about, and then I will go. But until then, I don't think I'll be attending a high school reunion.
Nor should you,
Yeah,
because that's terrible.
yeah, but yeah,
But
like, sorry, go ahead.
but yeah, it's just like why I mean, why is it and that's the interesting thing that I thought about is why is it that they kind of like block out all of the shitty parts? And it's like I think that part of it is just that, they don't really know how to control their lives now and they understand that they didn't know how to control their lives back then. And so they're just like, well, let's just think about the good stuff from that time frame to distract myself. And
Yeah,
it's just like, why, dude? Like, if it
and it
sucks, it sucks.
and it really wrecks with their personal progression in
Oh,
life in
absolutely,
all aspects.
absolutely.
Like they could be way better than the person they were in high school,
Hmm.
or as a child, but they're kind of choosing not to, and they're accepting the mediocre.
Right.
And they've just become so ingrained in the past that they can't see what's going on right now, and it's really holding people back as a society, to be honest.
Big time. Big
I
time.
mean,
Yep.
this
Totally
isn't
agree.
going to be like a huge issue that I'll take to Congress to stop nostalgia or whatever.
Though
Like,
you should.
yeah, I'll be there, and be like, we gotta stop nostalgia, and they're like, we're in the 50 other things. I'm like, but nostalgia,
But this thing,
it's really holding us back. It's like, don't you
do
have global warming to complain about? I'm like,
do
no,
this one.
nostalgia or whatever. Like, our president is having impeachment trials. I'm like, that's good, but this nostalgia,
But
let me tell you,
nostalgia, bro.
yeah, like, I mean, I really feel like it is a social issue that's not really being addressed, which is obviously why it's being discussed on this show, like every other topic
Absolutely.
that comes
Absolutely.
up. But I really feel like this is something that, like, if we were able to drop, a lot of people would be happier and more actually fulfilled with their lives and doing things that matter to them rather than living in a past. You know, live in the moment, carpe diem, or for fuck's sake, YOLO,
Yeah.
YOLO. Like,
Freaking
God,
YOLO. Ugh.
YOLO. Oh
Yeah.
man. Those are all the comments that I have regarding this. Caleb, do you have any wonderful final thoughts you'd like to add?
I will say this. I mean, it's not like the '90s or the bad, but as we're starting to kind of wrap up the 2010s, I'm just kind of like, there are good things from all those times, but let's just move the fuck on, man. Like,
Yeah,
let's get
yeah.
excited about the future. There's more stuff that's gonna happen. I mean, Elon Musk is trying to release flamethrowers for everybody. Let's just focus on that.
Yeah, and I mean, even the not like speaking of like the '90s nostalgia that you mentioned, and moving on from like the 2010s, something that really comes to mind as far as nostalgia goes was the 1999 Woodstock.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
Like
that.
even that was nostalgic, trying to capitalize off of the old Woodstock,
Yep.
and had class A acts like Limp Bizkit.
Way
Yeah,
better than the Beatles, by the way.
yeah, way better than the Beatles. Just say, um, do we want to discuss this now, Caleb, real quick? Why Limp Bizkit's better than the Beatles, or is that something we want?
Let's do a full show on that, I think.
Okay, full show on why Limp Bizkit is better than the Beatles. But what
Seems appropriate.
it does, it's very appropriate. Um, but yeah, like Woodstock, even the '90s had nostalgia from the '70s.
Yeah.
It's just like this huge circle of nostalgia and styles and things coming back.
Yeah.
It's like, let's move on, make something better that's unique to us rather than trying to, live with creations from someone else or just past for that matter.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
Anyways, that's our show. I want to thank Caleb for coming on.
Always.
And until next time, take care of yourself and each other. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Cult of MCS1 podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave a rating on Apple Podcast, Google Play, or whatever podcasting platform you listen to. For more information about the show notes and links, head over to thecultofmcs1.com or search AOL keyword MCS1.